What's up, everybody? That was a little abrupt there. I'll have to fix that. Our intro cut off a little bit earlier there, but hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to Galaxy of Geeks podcast live stream, live, and live, and we're here to talk about all the best in the geek news. Happy 2 days after Star Wars Day. We're recording this. It is May the 4th week, where we, of course, have the now Disney just owns Star Wars Day. It used to be kind of like a not owned thing, but now it's like a fully owned thing, and we've got lots to talk about. Bad Batch was released. There was a Simpsons thing released, which I didn't have a chance to watch yet.
You haven't? It's only 4 minutes long.
Oh, I didn't watch it yet, so I'll have to check that out. I was planning on checking it out actually later tonight or tomorrow because I didn't realize it was only 4 minutes. I thought it was like a whole episode of The Simpsons.
No, and they've released two other things, if I'm not mistaken, unless I just haven't seen them sooner.
Yeah, there were two other things. I saw them, but I didn't click into them. I just saw them on the menu.
Yeah, one is a fly through the ship, so one is a fly through the Millennium Falcon. And the other one is fly through the Star Destroyer.
Ah, okay.
And then there's something else called, of course, we're ultra prepared, Biospheres or something like that.
I saw, yeah. But I once again, I didn't click on it. I just saw on the menu, and I'm like, what is this stuff? I got to check this out. So yeah, I'm a little behind the eight ball on that.
Yeah, I didn't get to see that either, but I saw that the episode was, I think, like 20 minutes long, so I didn't have time to see it, on the 4th when it came out. But I was thinking, hey, what a way to sell a series by having a clip out of Last Jedi, the absolutely most popular Star Wars movie.
Yes, the one that has united all the fans. All the fans. They all love it. It's the movie that brought it all together.
United everyone to the dark side.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So welcome everybody to the show. Welcome to the live version of the show. Welcome to everybody that will watch the replay later on and then listen to the audio version as well. Post your questions and comments as we go. Anything that we're talking about, if you're watching this live, please throw them in and we will address them. If you want to contribute in any way, go right ahead. Please make sure that wherever you're listening or watching this, you hit that subscribe button so that way you get notified every time we go live and every time we drop a new episode. Also, Victor and I would ask that you head over to galaxyofgeeks.net where you can watch all past episodes, listen to all past episodes, but also there's a link to our merch store on there where we just have a Galaxy Geeks, swanky Galaxy Geeks merch. So if you want to head over there and buy a shirt or a hoodie or I don't know, I don't even know what we got a bunch of stuff in there. Feel free to buy any of that so that way we could pay for the streaming service and the web hosting that we do.
Yeah, we got a whole lot of lumps in there. By the way, the way you kicked it off, I was expecting you to start singing Psycho Circus. The way you were saying, welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. Yeah, I was going to do Psycho Circus.
Well, you've been singing there on social media lately. I figured, hey.
I have been singing a little bit on social media. Oh man, yeah, that's some funny stuff. And it's actually right before we got on here too. Victor and I were getting all fired up because we were having our little New York Rangers reactions to everything that's been going on. But we won't talk about that here. I don't want to go too into it because we're just going to get fired up again. But this is how we were psyching each other up before the show, was getting angry about all the New York Rangers hockey talk and everything that's going on. But I digress. You're not here to hear us. You're not here to hear us talk about the New York Rangers. Maybe you are, but you're here to hear us talk about all the things that we love in geekdom, which is
say you're not here to talk about the New York Rangers again.
You're not here to talk about the New York Rangers.
Oh, lies!
But you are here to hear us talk about the Bad Batch and our reactions to the newest Star Wars show to be released by Disney Plus. This is an animated version. If you're not familiar with Bad Batch, these were the clone trooper brigade, or I guess faction, or
they're a battalion. They're a battalion.
Yeah.
that I mean, essentially were manipulated and augmented to be different from the norm. They weren't going to be your typical Rex.
Yeah. Right.
And yeah. And it's interesting because obviously we talked about in the last episode how they were going to handle certain things that were going to take place, like Order 66. And as the plot kind of thickened, we kind of got to figure out that, you know, obviously we knew that not all of them were alike, but we also found out that they didn't augment everyone the same way.
Right, exactly. And so I'm going to preface this before we go any further with spoiler alert, because we are going to be talking about this episode in depth. So if you haven't watched it yet and you don't want to be spoiled, don't watch now. Don't watch this live, because we're going to be totally talking about main plot points and things that happened on the show. So we're 100% spoiling this.
Yes.
So just want to give that alert to anybody watching live right now that has not watched the episode yet. So yes, to Victor's point, they're already going into some things and touching on moments from the other shows and from things in Star Wars history, which is kind of cool. The Bad Batch, when we talked about this in the final season of Clone Wars, we were like, oh my God, these guys are great. I love that they introduced them. That's where they first introduced them, was in that final season of the Clone Wars. We thought they were really cool, and we were excited when they said that they were going to do a Bad Batch series. Right. So it's nice to kind of get that continuation from the Clone Wars. So we've got Dave Filoni's involved, same style of animation that you all loved about Clone Wars, if you like that. And we are picking up pretty much right at Order 66 when the show starts.
Yeah. It's the first like 5 minutes, you know, but it made sense. We talked about this last episode. We were like, well, where are they going to place this? Because obviously where we left off with them in Clone Wars and where Clone Wars continued, there was really only that sisters arc with Ahsoka.
Yep.
And then Order 66. You know, well, there were a few other things there with that final arc where she gets together with Anakin and with Obi-Wan and all that. But it was all headed towards Order 66. And then the finale of that series was the Order 66 episode. So, I mean, I think they did the smart thing because they honestly didn't have to give us like 3 or 4, you know, different things to build up to get to that. You know, we knew it was coming. So they did the smartest thing possible by just right off the bat, let's just do this.
Yeah, which I loved. And that's why I texted you, because that night I started watching it, or it was the morning. I forgot when I texted you. But I wasn't able to get, like, I was like, I just want to start it, but I couldn't get through the whole thing because I had stuff to do. But I was like, oh my God, like the first 10 minutes of this are amazing. And what's great is, so we dive right in Order 66 and we meet Caleb, which is Kanan, when he's a Padawan, and we see his master. And I was like, oh my God, this is so great. I loved seeing that moment that he talked about in Rebels when he, you know, as he talks about,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So that's Kanan, who, because his name was Caleb and he became Kanan. That was like, you know, and he went into hiding. So it's like, we got like the very, like that part of that story. And then I don't know where they're going to go, but he's running away when first he's excited to see the Bad Batch because he's like, these are my guys, and he wants to go. And then you hear Order 66, and then that's it. And then he sees his master get gunned down, and he starts running, and the Bad Batch is trying to talk to him, but he's scared, and so they're chasing him through the woods. And we have that great scene in the woods where we've got Hunter there trying to like say, hey, no, it's okay. Like, I don't know what's going on. And we see that Crosshair is like, you know, hey,
carrying out the order
to kill him. And he's like, what are you doing? And what are you doing? And finally we get the scene where Caleb gets away. He does that huge Jedi leap over that valley. And Crosshair misses that. And Hunter basically says, no, I killed him. He didn't make it across, and you can tell right away Crosshair didn't believe him at that point. But that was like, your first indication of like, oh, I see where they're going to go with this, because it seems like Crosshair's chip is working. Yeah, because he's like, we have to carry out the order. Yeah, and the other three are like, we don't know what's going on with you. Like, what is this? And then of course, then we're back to Camino. We see them going back to Camino to check in, and right away things are like weird because they're asking for codes, and they're like, we don't normally need a code, and all that stuff. And then we get that speech that they took from Revenge of the Sith, where Palpatine is basically saying, you know, the Empire, and it's left me scarred and disfigured, and that whole thing. And they're all lined up with all the other clones, and they're all like hurrahing and all this, and they're looking around like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
You know?
And then the next thing that we get with the crossover with other Star Wars canon is we see Tarkin show up.
Yep. Yeah, which was kind of cool to see that, because we get to hear a bit about like what this kind of starts to explain why it starts to answer the question is, why don't we see clones later on in Star Wars films? And they address this plot point by saying he's there by the order of the Emperor to evaluate whether or not they're going to use clones or a conscripted army, because they don't believe that clones are viable and it's too much money and all this stuff. And so he's basically there with the Caminos, or I don't even know. He's on Camino talking to the Camians. I don't know how
the natives.
The natives of Camino.
Before you get yourself into trouble trying to transpose that.
Yeah, seriously. So he's basically, he's like, I'm here to evaluate your program and whether or not we're even going to continue our contract. And I love that he shot that down. They're like, well, we have a contract with the Republic. And they're like, well, there is no more Republic.
Yeah,
I agree, Christian. I was stoked they brought him in too.
Yep. Agree. I mean, it annoyed me that before I got to see the episode on Tuesday morning, the first thing that I read was, this is a fitting sequel to Clone Wars, since every other animated series before this has fallen short. And I'm like, really? Have you watched Rebels all the way through? You know, to honestly give that assessment?
Yeah, I mean, come on.
It's similar to what we've talked about before. You know, if you just leave Clone Wars with Ahsoka being the annoying little brat in season 1, then I get that. You know, Ezra Bridger was kind of the same way.
Yeah.
I think the same thing is we may see kind of the Omega character may play out the same way as well. It's a young girl who is going along with the Bad Batch because she's another clone, which is discovered during the episode, because Tarkin says U5 and Crosshair wasn't with them.
Right.
So they were saying, well, what do you mean U5? You know, and then they finally realized that that she was actually a clone, and Tech ran all the whatever the stats that he needed to run to figure it out.
Which is interesting that they made, because it's basically our first female clone that we've seen.
Right.
And so, you know, it's like, what were they working on with? I mean, they introduced her as, well, this is my medical assistant.
Right.
And so just like, what were they planning on? Was that like the next phase of clones they were going to make? Because, and I hope they address this, because one of the things that we've always heard around canon was that another reason why they stopped was that they were kind of like they had stretched Jango Fett's DNA as far as they could. And considering he was dead, they couldn't go back and get any more. And and I'm wondering that if this was the case, that this was the next iteration of clones that they were working on to take the place of the Jango Fett clone.
It could be. The other thing to consider too is that all of the Rexes and whatnot were obviously, since they were Jango's, they used Jango's DNA. They were all formed as adults. So Omega is still a kid. Well, I guess no. Boba was a kid.
No, Boba was a kid. And if you see in there the kid, they grow fast. So they do start as kids.
You're right.
But they're accelerated growth.
It is not correct. You obviously have forgot about episode number 12 from season 4 of The original Clone Wars.
That's right. You're no geek. What, you missed that? But I know with Boba, Django specifically said don't accelerate him. I want him to actually grow like a normal human would grow, like not this accelerated growth.
Right. So this is going off in people's heads right now.
So I moving with the episode, they have this cool like prison break thing, which was kind of cool, but we do go through this where we're going this back and forth. They're establishing this conflict between Hunter, who is basically the leader of the Bad Batch, and Echo. And I'm sorry, not Echo, Crosshair. And it's heating up throughout the whole thing because you really see that these, the inhibitor chip or the chip that was in theirs is not working, but with Crosshair, it seems to be working. And they pull him out, and they're doing experiments with them, or they want to see with the chip, the evaluation. And Tarkin, because Tarkin is trying to figure out where their loyalty is and all this, and he finds it. And this is another thing, is that he doesn't think the clones are loyal. And I know there's a lot of weird things that he's saying, and he's just focusing on these guys. Meanwhile, the rest of the clone troopers are all they're all lock and step, but what he found it fascinating was that he's like, well, he chose to be loyal to the Empire, even though his chip wasn't fully working right, but he chose that over disobeying orders. So they do this experiment where they I guess enhance it, they're zapping it, and they're and he says, oh, go full power or something like that. And next time we see Crosshair, he's like full on, you guys are enemies now. He turns on them, turns heel.
Right. Yeah, definite heel turn.
Yeah.
The other thing there, another thing that I wanted to bring up is that Tarkin made a great choice, because let's be honest, a lot of the troopers that he brought in lack, either eyesight issues or, aren't on the range enough, because, we've come to know that the Stormtrooper program that started with Tarkin doesn't exactly have the best, marksmanship grades out there.
Nope, not at all.
Had he stuck with the clones, maybe, cost a little more, but a little bit more efficient with the guns.
You pay for a premium there. And, they are programmed to be loyal. So I love the whole scene where he's testing them to test their abilities and all that. And then they go live rounds, which is crazy. That whole sequence was fantastic. That was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. The other thing too is they brought some realism in there with them taking out Wrecker and leaving him in the middle, which is what's actually done in war to get you to come out and, I'm gonna save Wrecker, and then they have a sniper there who's gonna take everyone out one by one, which is what the idea was with Crosshair. It didn't end up working the way that he thought, but
because they underestimated Omega, because even though she's a little kid, she seems to be quite the marksman with the blaster.
Right.
She knows how to handle herself. So there's a lot of mystery with her as far as what all her abilities are, other than the fact that we know she's a medical assistant. She seems to be extremely intelligent. But what else is going on there? I feel like this is the big mystery of the show is what is she really made for?
Right. What is it? The evolution that they thought, was going to be the next step for the clones, as you're saying? Maybe is there some DNA mixed in between Jango Fett and the natives of Camino or something, and that's what gives her the additional intelligence? Or was there something else that was worked in there? I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
She augmented like they are, and this is another part of their experimentation of making these enhanced clones.
Because like you mentioned too, you mentioned 99, who was the quote unquote janitor
Yeah.
that they had, who similarly was like an experiment, went bad. So they used him for a non-combat scenario, even though in the end he, sacrificed himself
Right.
in a combat scenario because he still knew enough to, want to fight to be loyal for his guys, basically.
Right.
The other great thing with Filoni involved, we also see Saw Gerrera. When they end up, they're told that they need to go to the planet and take out what they think is a robot army.
Right.
They think they're taking out some clankers. But they get there and they find out that they're humans and that they're kids and that they're Republic fighters. And then that's when they run into Saw Gerrera and they start to, he starts to explain what's taking place. And he's basically saying, hey, the Empire's just going to do, Palpatine has gotten his way. He, raised through the ranks of the Republic just to make it his own empire.
Yeah.
So,
which I thought that was nice, bringing that character. And so it's like they're tying in characters from Clone Wars, characters from Rebels. I like how they're weaving these characters in.
Saw Gerrera was obviously in Rogue One as well.
Yep, exactly. So, yes, when Crosshair sniped the rifle and shot it into the droid, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Knife. Yes. That was pretty awesome.
Into the head of the, yeah. That was really cool. The other thing too, that gives us hope to see people like Cad Bane, people like Hondo.
I know. Hondo, so how many episodes is this series, by the way?
I think it's 10.
Is it 10? Okay. Which I like that they're setting up. This is another interesting show because I feel like this is an unexplored timeline in Star Wars history. And I feel like that, and while we've had Rebels kind of be in there and, of course, Rogue One be there, I feel like, though, that this is like a cool springboard to bring in some of these other characters that you and I have talked about, like what happened to Hondo, what happened to Cad Bane. Let's check in with some of the younger versions of these other characters around this timeline. Like we already saw Caleb. Do we see, like you said it last week, are we going to see Hera show up in this? A younger version of Hera. I mean, there's a lot of other,
We saw Leia, we saw Lando, we saw all these younger people, younger characters throughout Rebels.
Right. And do we go to Tatooine? Like, are we going to go to Tatooine? Are we going to get a, where they wind up on Tatooine and there's an Obi-Wan encounter of some sort? Are we going to see Boba Fett? Because Boba Fett was in Clone Wars, the younger version of him. And we know that he's out being a bounty hunter and all the other bounty hunters and all this. This is, and I think the big one that we've all talked about, and I think Christian even brought this up last week, is do we see an Anakin before, before the fight on Mustafar? I mean, we do have a time. It seems like there is a bit of a time jump here because it goes Order 66 and then.
Yeah, because Order 66. Well, because Anakin and Obi-Wan don't fight for a little bit. It's slightly after, correct?
I mean, I know they make it seem like, it's an hours later, but it's not. Yeah. I don't know the official amount of times. Maybe somebody listening may be able to shoot that out. But it doesn't happen like lickety split like there's a little bit of time because Vader's already out doing, he's the Vader version of Anakin, not in the suit, is already out doing stuff, assassinating people, taking people out, doing that. Then he has the fight with Obi-Wan on Mustafar, and then all that happens.
Right.
And I'm wondering if we're going to get that glimpse. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if we get that Anakin before the suit version. if not, then do we see Vader at all?
We saw him in Rebels.
Did see him in Rebels.
So I'm assuming that we may. They can't help themselves. There has to be, a Vader tie-in somehow. Shit. And speaking of that, do we see Maul? Do we see, could we see a Din Djarin somewhere, as a kid, where they cross over and find him somehow or run into him? Or it's actually, Christian, we're both wrong. It's actually 16 episodes.
Next one does. There's another episode on tonight.
7th. Yeah.
Oh,
7th. Which is why they've actually, and I don't know if it's because maybe this series, the first episode maybe did better than the other ones, or better than they expected, but they've moved Loki's date up 2 days. So Loki will Loki will now be on Wednesdays. Bad Batch will be on Fridays.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm wondering if that's the case. I mean, or it's just like, hey, we don't want to have 2 shows coming out on the same day like that. I mean, I don't know. It's not like it's live TV, but
keep you on the Disney Plus.
Keep me on Disney Plus. That's right. Go ahead.
Good.
So I do want to make a comment.
Okay.
And I want to see what your reaction is to it. So I liked the episode. I liked the show. Like right away, I'm like, I'm in it. Right. But do you feel like this episode dragged a little bit? Do you feel like it was a little too long? And do you feel like it dragged a little bit?
I actually don't, for the following reason. When I turned it on, so I was talking to my wife the last few days to say, hey, since WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier were our Friday show, let's make Bad Batch our show, because she's not, the only animated series that we've really watched together was Archer. And because it's more of an adult themed thing and whatnot. And she had kind of seen some Clone Wars episodes, but there's also so much to take in with Clone Wars, with all the different characters and the planets. And, hey, I thought the Stormtroopers are bad. No, they're not Stormtroopers yet. They're clone troopers. It was a lot of things to kind of take in. So I was talking to her about it, and we turned it on, and she goes, how long is this? And I looked at it, and I'm like, hour and 15 minutes. She's like, I don't know if I'm going to last this long. And she started getting into it. Mm-hmm. And at the end, she was like, it wasn't as long as I expected. I actually liked it. So
all right.
For us, it seemed to flow well. I mean, it was, let's be honest, most of the Clone Wars and Rebels and the other animated shows are like 20 minutes to half hour most of the time. Yeah. And maybe you'll get like a 40-minute episode. Then again, let's remember that those were also put together for Nickelodeon. They were put together for Disney XD, which also factor in commercials. So it's 20 minutes long, because with the commercial breaks, it's a half hour.
Right.
But now Disney can make these as long as they want. So now, I doubt we'll see another hour and 15-minute episode. We'll probably be closer to the 20 minutes to half hour from here on out.
Right.
But I thought it was, a great way to introduce everything to people that may not have seen Clone Wars for that same reason and don't understand what the Bad Batch was about. We got to see the intro to establish not only are they a bad batch, but they're a bunch of badasses,
Right. And I love that.
So
that was a great intro.
Yeah, we established that. We got into Order 66 right away. We got into Tarkin and figuring out, hey, wait a second. What happened to the clones exactly? So for us Star Wars nerds, we're getting, as you said, they're feeding us different breadcrumbs
Right.
to figure out, different aha moments to figure out, where things are going. They're filling in the gaps like Filoni has always been great at doing.
Yeah.
I don't think it was long, but because I enjoyed the whole thing. And again, I know that there are a lot of people that I know that hated Rebels, that didn't understand it, and I loved Rebels, even though even though Ezra was a pain in the ass initially, I got it. I understood why he was that way.
And that show is designed, once again, like any kid's show that's got longevity to it. It's supposed to grow with your viewer. That's how Clone Wars was. That's how this is. It's directed at kids first, and it grows with the kids. So that way, by the time it ends, they're of a maturity level to, wrap their heads around what's happened.
Right. And it gives kids, I think, in the end, too, with the previous episodes, as you're saying, it shows them, a sense of maturity that, hey, even though I was rebellious or even though I didn't know anything initially, I grew into this. I listened to those that came before me, and without realizing it, they're kind of I'm not saying that they're teaching you the Bible, but they're giving you small, like, little life lessons at the same time.
No, there's morality in there for sure.
Yes.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, that's what Star Wars has always been about.
Yes,
it's always steeped in that. Just to share what Christian has in the chat here. So it's going back to some of our other stuff. Fennec Shan from Mando is in the trailer, so we have to get Boba. So this goes back to the comment we were talking about before.
Oh, wow.
With Boba Fett showing up. I must have missed that, but okay. I would agree that if she's in the trailer, then that's definitely a gateway to Boba.
That's huge, and for another reason, not only a gateway to Boba, but Din also knew her as well.
That's true. Yes.
So also Carl Weathers' character, I don't remember the name right now. He obviously was the guy doling out all the different contracts to the
bounty hunters.
To the bounty hunters.
He had the guild, the bounty hunter guild.
There you go. So do we see his character? Like I said, Filoni, I think, will do a great job of covering every little step of the way. Again, what did we say? We tied into Rebels. We tied into New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
We tied into Rogue One. If Fennec is involved, we're tying into the Mandalorian.
Right. And do we go even further with Rogue One? Do we see an Andor, which helps, the Andor film series coming out, because he's around there. Does he have a mission with the Bad Batch? Does he run into them? Like, do they help? Like, so this is the other thing too, is like, where is this winding up? Because where does the Bad Batch go in the Empire? Right. Do they go on a run? Do they join the rebellion? Are they part of the rebellion? Or is this sort of like a Rogue One where it gets to a point and, that's it? Like, the Bad Batch does something. They sacrifice themselves for the greater good. Or, like, I'm interested to see where they're taking a Bad Batch. Do they go like how Rex and the other three were kind of hide
to try to hide and retire, basically,
right? And then bring them back to when Rebels is around and bring them back in. So
because here's another question that I have for you.
And do we see Ahsoka?
Good one. Yeah. There could be that tie. It was funny because when they run into Saul, we saw a character that looked, it's the same race as her and Hera. And then you see her from behind, like at a distance, like a shady figure with the two, I don't remember the word. I'm sorry, I'm not prepared. It left you with like, oh shit, are we about to see Hera with them? Are we about to see Ahsoka with them? Is this Java's future dancer?
Yeah, I mean, this is the fun part is like, because you can bring in, you can bring in these people, these characters in and out. You know, the show's about Bad Batch. We're gonna follow them. You know, the Omega. You know, finding out what Omega is, which I find hilarious that her name's Omega, because it's like reminds me of Galaxy Quest, where the Omega Project or whatever it is that they kept calling it, the Omega 13 or whatever it was, right? Whatever, I forgot what they called it, but it was that. And I'm like, what is her secret power? Like, where is this gonna go? You know, it's like, and then we know there's Jedi hiding, there's Jedi. Yeah, there's all this stuff going on right now. There's chaos, and so everybody's moving and hiding and all this stuff.
Similar to that, and I should have thought of this. Rex grew old, so obviously the clones do grow old and everything. Here's my question: do you recall seeing Kamino after this at any point in any of the other series? Because
I don't think so. I'm trying to remember if during Rebels, if they go to Kamino at all.
Yeah, because here's the thing: is it possible that maybe Tarkin takes Kamino out with the Death Star or something to wipe out all the clones in one shot?
Yeah, I guess it's possible, although I don't know, destroying an entire planet like that, I think everybody would be talking about that ahead of time. And the Death Star really hasn't been fully built yet, because in Rogue One they're still like getting it together and all that. Okay. Like, it's not.
So let's
that Death Station's not fully operational.
Right. So let's imagine this: like they took the leap from the Death Star to the Planet Killer or the Star Killer or whatever it was called in
Star Killer Base.
Star Killer Base, and then all of the fucking flying Doritos. What the hell? The Star Destroyers.
Flying Doritos. The Star Destroyers. I keep
forgetting Star Destroyers tonight. Yeah, there are two things that I identify with Doritos outside of actual Doritos. One is Ace Frehley's uniform or costume during Hotter Than Hell.
Right.
And the other one is the Star Destroyer. So I apologize.
Apology. Yes. Apology accepted, Captain Nita.
Okay. Like the Star Destroyers that then had Star Killer cannons on them, could we see something that was a precursor to the Death Star? And it's the reason why Tarkin takes over the Death Star, because he was already working on something similar, and he used that to take out Kamino. Here's the other thing. We don't really hear about Kamino, but kind of because it was a Empire base. It was producing the Empire's troops. So the rebellion doesn't talk about it because it wasn't theirs. It was the enemy's base. So they did what they wanted with it.
Right.
I don't know. I'm just trying to throw some plausibility.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I think everything's plausible because we don't know what happens to Kamino, because I don't think we ever revisit Kamino in any of the films that I can remember. So something could happen there, especially with Tarkin kind of like not want to do clones and, but I know that technology still exists, because obviously I would say that this is the technology that Palpatine's using when he's trying to clone himself and clone, obviously clone Snoke and whatever else he's looking to do. So I think that technology is still there. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. I am definitely interested to see where they bring the Bad Batch, though. Like,
it's definitely, it's going to be cool to figure out where they go with this. Like you said, this is another story arc that is deviating from what we've always known, and whether they weave Skywalkers in and out of this, I think they've kind of left it all open. One of the things that I think has recently kind of bugged me with a lot of like the J.J. Abrams publicity, especially for Episode 9, was, oh no, this is the end of the Skywalker story.
Yeah, I know. That's always been a sticking point for you.
And it's like, well, why? Are we? Yeah, well, Do we kill Rey, Finn, and Poe all of a sudden just because J.J. Abrams doesn't want them anymore? Just because he's done? To me, that never made sense. Why kill something off if you've already established something that could have a plausible future within the stories? I'm not saying that there has to be a Skywalker involved, but it doesn't mean that we can't see something with Lando, something with Finn, something with even Chewbacca or something. There's a bunch of different characters that could still go out, similar to what they've done with Marvel. Do we need, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Finn and Poe? We can't have a Finn and Poe series post all of this, similar to how Steve Rogers, passing the torch on, Princess Leia dying leaves them in a place where they don't know where to go with the New Republic. So maybe that whole thing can be the two of them trying to figure out what the New Republic's army's place is in the new, in the new universe or whatever, Now,
I'm going to make a little bit of a bold character prediction as well here.
Wait, hold on. Go ahead.
Could we
potentially
could be doable. I don't know. Could we see them introduce Mara Jade in this series? Oh, could
waiting for that?
Yeah. Could we see Mara Jade be introduced in this series? It would be probably an incredible long shot but at the same time, Mara Jade was one of the Emperor's secret assassins, secret kind of side projects. Not even Vader knew who she was.
Right.
As far as he was training her to be a Sith. She was almost like how, which they're there too, because we see them in Rebels, but the Inquisitors,
right?
And this is where we had those introductions, because we didn't even know what the hell an Inquisitor was until we saw Rebels. Right. That was an introduction to something new. Mm-hmm. Which is why I'm thinking, could we see an introduction of a Mara Jade character in this series?
But she's roughly Luke's age, isn't she?
I think according to books, they're kind of the same age, I think. Although she's training with the Emperor. She could be older, though. Okay.
But in this
let's just say maybe in this timeline, she's young adult or 18, 17, maybe, Luke would be really young, actually. That would be ridiculous. So I don't know. But the thing is that was old Legends. And so they haven't introduced this character yet. So they could literally put this character anywhere in timeline. What they knew, okay, yeah, she meets Luke and they wind up getting married and all that stuff. But that doesn't exist anymore. Right. But you have an awesome character with this crazy backstory. Is this a place where you could introduce the Mara Jade character into the new canon?
We know that Filoni doesn't have an issue with bringing in old canon and making it, part of making it work.
And to that point, do we see Thrawn in this series?
We could.
Do we see Thrawn come into the series, and maybe him and Tarkin kind of,
butt heads, yeah.
Butt heads. Both vying for power, Yeah. Do we see Krennic from Rogue One, considering he's in charge of building the Death Star with Jyn Erso's father?
Mm-hmm. Could we see a young Jyn Erso?
Yeah, I think that's totally doable too. Especially with Saw Gerrera involved, and knowing that
he knew her. Yeah, absolutely.
He knew her. He saves her. When Krennic goes to basically take him and kill her.
Yeah. Wow. There's a lot. There's a lot to flesh out through this season. Have they said that this is a one and done, or is this something that's going to play out over a few seasons?
They have not. I guess they want to see how it does.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Maybe they don't even know yet, depending on how well it does popularity-wise. At least on IMDb, it's gotten over 2,200 votes, and it's a 9.1 rating. So
it was a strong first episode, and I think that if the quality stays along these lines, I think the show's going to be really successful. And I think coming out of the gate and bringing in some of these characters from other shows, from the series, films into it, I think is really cool. And I think that's going to be another part that makes the show very cool, is the fact that like we're following this one band of characters through Star Wars timeline where they have the ability to be able to interact and intersect with these other storylines.
Which is really cool. And for everyone that bitched about Disney owning both Star Wars and Marvel, it's really a comic book approach to things.
Yes.
Because comic books have always intertwined and had crossover episodes and had story arcs that, you have to bring in people from other factions or whatever to kind of keep it fresh and keep the story going and whatnot. And I think they've been smart enough to do that, to keep their entire canon alive. And they're going to be able to weave in and out of all of these stories because there's no limits. Honestly, there's really, we have certain things set in stone, but there's a lot of gaps in between. There's that 30-year gap we always talk about.
Yeah.
There's all this parallel stuff that's now happening at the same time. It's a similar deal. What you're doing on your side of the world has nothing to do with what I'm doing here, except for Thursday nights when we get together, we chat. In the meantime, we're off doing our thing. So,
very much it is that. I mean, even with Captain, with Falcon and Winter Soldier. Captain America, Winter Soldier, as it ends. With WandaVision, apparently that's going on the same time.
Right.
All these events are happening simultaneously.
Everything is happening, so it converges in different places to build a story. I mean, it's what they're doing, I think, is really cool. And again, the stories are limitless because, as you're saying, where do we go with this? Do they all survive in the end? Maybe it's only one or two. Do we see them in future series? Do we see them in future movies? There's a bunch of there's so many different things that,
especially now that they've already created this riff right out of the bat with Crosshair being enhanced to the max, basically, with his chip to turn against the rest of them. So how's that going to play out, considering he's kind of not in his control? Do they get him? Do they try to remove the chip like how they did with Rex in the last episode of Clone Wars and take the chip out? So
do they do it on Kamino so that he turns on, or maybe even again, maybe there's a sequence where they're going to kill everyone on Kamino. And
does Vader go to Kamino?
What's that?
Does Vader go to Kamino and wipe out everybody? I mean, like he did in Revenge of the Sith, with the separate, he went in there and wasted everybody on Mustafar.
Yeah, he's basically paintbrushing everyone with a lightsaber.
I mean, he's the hitman. He just is going out and taking everybody out.
I mean, that's another plausible thing. And like I said, maybe, the Prime Minister of Kamino says, hey, the only way of stopping this guy is if you rejoin the Bad Batch. You need to rejoin Clone Troop, Clone Troopers 99 or whatever the name of the thing was.
Troop 99.
Troop 99. So, again, a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, very excited. It's very exciting, and so really looking forward to the next episode of the Bad Batch. So we'll be talking. Tonight. So we'll be checking in every week on the Bad Batch.
Yes.
So keep following us every week, because I'm sure we're gonna have reactions every week we do the show. We're gonna have reactions to the next episode of Bad Batch as we follow that, and eventually too, once Loki gets fired up and going, we'll be talking about that as well.
It'll be interesting. We'll be doing like a Loki after show and a pre-show for Bad Batch type of a deal, you know.
Basically, yeah, it's going to turn into
that. Speaking of Loki, again, we already mentioned that they're changing it to Wednesday nights starting on June 9th. We still don't have a whole heck of a lot of information. We know that he's there to jump through time.
Yeah,
he's there with Owen Wilson's character. He's there with the judge as well.
Yeah,
they're from the time variance
authority.
Okay,
and we know he gets away because they have a scene where it looks like he finally gets away from them. From the trailer.
Well, in the trailer, he's playing out the famous heist scene from
DB Cooper.
DB Cooper. He jumps from the plane, and then if you notice, all of a sudden he's zapped back to Asgard.
Yeah,
because so he kind of gets away from them. If they're using the same technology as the Asgardians are,
yeah,
well, then he didn't get that far. But
right.
Could you see? I mean, do you think in this series that there's one central big bad?
You know, I don't know unless they're going to make the big bad the TVA.
Could be. Could it be somewhere along the lines of them? I don't know. There's talk of like bringing Kang in, I believe, for I think it's for the Doctor Strange movie. Do they do something along those lines? Do they do something with like a Dormammu or something like that?
That is a good question. The question is who gets the question is who gets the hallway scene in the series? It's become a tradition now. Well, it's got to be Loki versus probably a bunch of people.
Right. I think the cool thing is that they've kind of made this to look so different than everything else. Again, so different from WandaVision, so different from Falcon and Winter Soldier, that we don't know what to expect.
No, with this show in particular, we don't know what to expect. I mean, they're doing a really good job. And the thing is, once again, you have time. We're dealing multiverse again. Like everything is getting set up for multiverse stuff here.
Yes.
And this is the stuff that we've all been talking about. And it's like, so now we're going to get these films that are all in that cross-dimensional, cross-timelines.
Is Loki the one that rips it open? And we're saying Wanda the whole time. Maybe it's Loki trying to escape.
Well, we know that because we know that he's created multiple timelines now because he left his timeline and wasn't going to go back. And not only but he left it with the Tesseract, which it seems like they got back, like because he gets caught by the TVA, like almost it looks like instantly. Because when you first see him come out of that portal, he's still wearing like the Loki outfit he had on at the end of in Endgame when he left.
Do we see is it Key and Peele, or is that their names? Do we see them go after him, much like in Rick and Morty?
That'd be amazing. That'd be amazing.
I would laugh my ass off because it's the two of them that do those characters that are always after Rick.
Yep. Exactly.
So if they were to bring that into here, I mean, as a tip of the hat to Rick and Morty, I mean, that would be hilarious.
Yeah, that would be amazing. That would be really amazing. I mean, I guess with this, I guess almost anybody could be.
Anyone could be a big bad.
I mean, it has to be. Yeah, I mean, Dormammu is it Dormammu? Yeah. I mean, I think they would leave him until Doctor Strange. I think if they're going to do a villain, they may be a little bit more on level. It's hard to tell because it's like you got the Time Variance Authority and there's all this stuff and they got him and it seems like they got to go fix a lot of these things that he did. But I mean, does he face off against villains that we've seen already? That's like because of the timeline stuff.
And do they need it? Because let's think about it. In WandaVision, the big bad was technically Agnes. Was Agatha. In Falcon and Winter Soldier, was the Flag Smashers, was Sharon Carter,
It's blurred,
It's very blurred. There is
a John Walker, which kind of he's like an anti-hero type of character, though.
There's still, I think Loki looks to me where it's going to be a series where it's going to continue to lay groundwork for what we're going to see happen in the MCU, to see what's going to happen ultimately in the theaters, which is what their bread and butter is. So
Christian's checking in again with and he was in Pompeii in the new trailers of Volcano Erupts. He says just on time, and it looks like he might get away. It looks like Lady Loki is the big bad. Forgot the actress's name, but we see her in the trailer, and her character isn't named yet. Yes, you're right. Actually, I've heard a lot of talk about Lady Loki being in the show because there's this woman wearing the hood and all that, and she seems to be like totally on Loki's level of power and everything. And by the comics, Lady Loki. So everybody's been saying that's been the chatter.
So that's the official name, Lady Loki,
from the comics, but nothing's confirmed. So
right, because I remember way back when they were talking about, I think it was Valkyrie was the name, and that she always dresses in green, and that she's been Thor's nemesis a bunch of times over the years. So I mean, I don't know. Again, so much Mephisto talk. In the past. Lady Loki. I mean, that's interesting, but I guess until we see it play out, nothing's definite.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's. I mean, if anything, to date, I mean, Marvel's been very, a lot of Mr. X, things like that. Obviously, these trailers are what makes it fun because you could go through them and sometimes the stuff doesn't even make it into the show, but they do things on purpose because they want people to be talking about. They want the chatter. They want the tinfoil hack conspiracy theories.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I saw today was that they showed some. They showed Ethan Hawke from Moon Knight some like clips, and they're like, "Oh my God, there's a symbol on the street that's an X. Obviously, the X-Men come in.
Obviously, the X-Men are there."
And then the guy that's saying this starts to laugh. To top it off, this is done in Spanish, and they do it with the guy looks like Tony Stark, and the guy's doing like a Tony Stark impersonation. Like he does a good impersonation of the guy who dubs Tony Stark in Latin America.
Okay.
So it's funny. It's like Tony Stark reading you the news for like all these rumors and things. And it's done in a humorous way. So it's funny. Obviously, the X-Men are coming in. And he starts to laugh. He's like, yeah, just like Mephisto was coming in any second now in WandaVision.
It's coming. Mephisto. It's Mephisto and all the X-Men.
And all the X-Men all at once, all just tearing through the fabric of all the dimensions. So let's move on to Black Widow, which comes out a month later, July 7th. Big bad, we know, is Taskmaster.
Yeah. Or is there, definitely that, but is somebody else, this is what Marvel, I think, does really well, is sometimes they slip in someone else or the origins of something else or the tease of somebody else.
Yeah, is Taskmaster the new Crossbones for this movie? Because we thought,
that might be
Crossbones. Yeah, and then he's
just like dispatched very fast.
Right, he's like fucking Henry Osborn in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Do what you will and just sweep her under the rug. Crossbones is like that. You're like, oh wow, he's gonna be so cool, Frank Grillo.
Yeah,
and then wait a second, he's gone.
Wait,
what happened?
He's dead. It's over.
He's dead.
It's over.
Black Widow. Who lives after this? Who continues?
From that movie?
Yes.
Well, we already know Black Widow. Well, Black Widow doesn't make it past Endgame.
Okay. But are we sure this is an origin story? And again, it doesn't have something to do with the multiverse.
I think right now, yes. I mean, I think because it was never supposed to be a multiverse because it wasn't supposed to be part of any of the any of this new stuff. So I don't think that it's, if they're going to do anything, it's going to be on the end credits thing to do something. Right. But I think that it's more less. This movie's way delayed. They just got to get it out. It's a one-off film with definitely connections. But
are we going to see like Hopper or like any of the other characters like continue somehow? I mean, the sister is supposed to take over as the new Black Widow. That's
which I could see that one definitely happening, especially if they go a Dark Avengers kind of a way too.
Right,
I could see her being in Dark Avengers.
Yeah, and they've also talked about maybe even Young Avengers.
Mm-hmm. Which that could very well be as well. I mean, that could definitely be reality. Yeah. What is Hopper? He's the Red Russian or
yeah.
I'm blanking out his character. I'm blanking out completely on what the name of his character is. Christian, help me out here. Does he make David Harbour's character? That's
yes.
Does he make it past this? I'm not sure.
So let me ask you
maybe he gets killed off in this.
Let me ask you this. Imagine if the movie ends in this fashion, end credit scene.
Oh, here we go. Red Guardian. Thank you.
Okay. Let's imagine this. Red Guardian survives. Okay, so she's confirmed for the Hawkeye
series. Florence Pugh.
Which means Hawkeye's daughter is supposed to be part of the Young Avengers.
Right, so it could be Young Avengers there then.
Yeah. Okay, so let's consider this. Oh wow, Ross is back in this movie.
Thunderbolt Ross.
Yep. He's in Black Widow.
All right.
Again, the Raft. Do we see a tie in there? Do we see a Baron Zemo here in an end credit scene?
I guess it depends where they're going to put this in the Falcon and Winter Soldier bit. Is this?
Yeah.
I mean, theoretically, she's supposed to be dead. Like Black Widow's dead when this is going on.
Okay, but let's consider this.
And Zemo was in like what, a German prison or something when they broke him out.
True. Yeah. Okay, but let's consider this. Let's say Red Guardian makes it to the end of the movie
and goes to the Raft.
No. And Yelena, who is the sister,
mm-hmm.
The two of them go to search out what happened to Natasha, and Red Guardian offers himself up as a sacrifice to bring Black Widow back.
Yeah, so he would need but then that means who has the soul, so what? So then who has the Soul Stone? Because you go to Vormir to do that, but it's to get the Soul Stone. But you don't get anybody back. Like the soul, every time you go to take the Soul Stone, you have to give up a soul. So that wouldn't work.
Okay. My bad.
It still wouldn't bring her back. According to the rules set up.
Right. According to the rules. All right.
Unless the only way I see Black Widow coming back is the multiverse version of her.
Okay.
Something like that.
Here's my thing. If this movie becomes huge all of a sudden,
mm-hmm.
and you're dealing with a character that's dead, you're not selling a lot of merch for her.
Right, but I don't know. I mean, but I think though, if you're passing the torch, yeah, exactly. I agree. Yeah, Gamora came back, so definitely multiverse. I mean, we have the other Gamora out. So Gamora we knew is gone, but we have this other version of Gamora from the multiverse now in the Prime timeline.
Okay.
So could we get a Black Widow from whatever multiverse in the Prime timeline? I think that is definitely more plausible than anything else.
What
Especially
about
if we're established, and like Christian said, if we already have the Gamora from that timeline into the Prime timeline, why can't they do the same thing with Black Widow?
okay? So let me ask you this: what if Loki does it?
I was just gonna go there. That I'm wondering if with the TVA and all this that there's or he begins to figure that out that he could do it if he wanted to, because right now he could care less who she is. So there would have to be a real reason for him to do it.
Okay, let's say that due to his events, there's a shot in a Loki trailer that people claim is Black Widow, and another shot with a destroyed New York City, possibly from a universe where he won the Battle of New York. Okay, so let's say that the TVA, what if she was the only survivor and she comes in?
Okay.
Interesting point.
That's an interesting point. I like that. Like that. Yes. Yes.
Now let's look at it this way. What if the TVA blames Loki for the events of Infinity War and Endgame? And as a result, he needs to bring Black Widow back, needs to bring the correct Gamora back.
Yeah, but wouldn't that further... I don't know how that fixes the timeline, considering it... Because we always have to remember what Doctor Strange said. You know, one in how many millions of possibilities?
Yeah.
Did they win? And that was the one.
I'm just throwing things out.
I know, and I'm just lobbing it back and saying, you know...
All right. Okay. Summer 2021. So at some point this summer, we're going to get What If. I mean, these are all one-off episodes, if I'm not mistaken. So there really isn't, anything with really anyone dying, anyone coming back.
No,
so
it's just it's all What If. So
okay, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Do we see? And this is something that we talked about, because I guess initially the big bad is what, his father and that other like ninja or whatever that is, or samurai. That's
the real version of the Maladrin. Heck is his name from Iron Man?
Oh, the Mandalorian, not Mandalorian. The
Mandarin, the Mandarin. Oh my God, yeah. The real version of the Mandarin is in this, not the Ben Kingsley, like the actual real Mandarin,
right? Not the one that I just play him on TV.
Yeah. But yeah, I think his father is supposed, and then the other guy, who I never read this book, so I'm not familiar with the characters. Not very versed in the characters of that storyline.
Okay, so since Christian is listening as well, we sort of talked about this previously. Hey, do we see a tie-in with Baron Mordo? Or Mordo, excuse me. Mordo. And B, okay, Mandalorian is Shang-Chi's father. You see the flag of Mandapore in the background, so possibly Power Broker tie-in. Who Valentina also appears in Black Widow.
Yeah. So it could be a Power Broker tie-in there.
And again, do we get Thunderbolt Ross here again to start building?
Especially if the term Power Broker isn't just to one person, but a group of people who work together.
Which is maybe Sharon Carter was ultimately reporting back to the head Power Broker when she was on the phone.
Right. Which could be Ross, could be the Mandarin.
Yeah. So many things. So many activities. Do we see a tie-in to Iron Fist here?
I think if there is, it's going to be a tease.
Okay.
A real Iron Fist.
Do they kill off Danny Rand?
If it's the version that we got, then that's fine with me.
Okay. And then we're gonna get
and just give me Daughters of the Dragon with everybody that was in that show. Just go right there because they were awesome.
They're gonna kill off this Danny Rand and bring another one in from another dimension.
The real Danny Rand. That was the multiverse Danny Rand. We didn't.
Yeah. Eternals. Thanos is technically an Eternal.
Yes, he is.
Black Knight, who is Kit Harington, is also in this, who also goes on to be an Avenger.
Right, and we didn't see him in that teaser trailer, right? That you saw that whole thing, right?
Yeah, we saw
Angelina Jolie's character.
Yeah, we saw Salma Hayek. We saw Dinesh from Silicon Valley. I forget his name. Yeah. And we saw Richard Madsen, I believe his name is. He's or Richard Maddox, is it? I don't know. He was Rob Stark in Game of Thrones.
Right, Rob Stark. That's it. Yes.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the Eternals at all?
So I'm gonna be honest with you, I am not.
Okay.
It's not a book I read.
So is this going to be, and again, we have Christian who is well versed in pretty much everything, seems like. So
yeah. He's read way more books when it comes to Marvel stuff than I have.
Okay. Do the Eternals appear because of Thanos? Maybe they were coming to get Thanos and they were late. They saw what ended up happening. You know, he was taken out. And then at the same time, are they also scared of the villains on Earth as a result? And
I guess also, too, are the Eternals immune? Were they immune to the snap because they're eternal and they're immortal? Or would they have been subject to the snap?
Because this
is supposed to be taken over. I think, like they said, like the span of like 8,000 years or something like that. This film is supposed to,
right?
Something like that.
Yeah, but that's interesting because you think about it. Could Thanos have snapped Galactus? Could he have snapped the Watchers? Could he have snapped
the Silver Surfer?
The Silver Surfer. How many beings could Thanos have technically taken out?
Yeah, this is a great question, Christian. I'm not really well versed, but the main question really is why didn't they intervene in an Endgame and Infinity War?
There you go. But did they usually play the part of, say, the Watchers and just overlook everything? And then when they saw what the beings of Earth could do, is that what brings them to Earth?
Synopsis: they've been on Earth for a millennia. Okay.
Maybe they were swapped.
Yeah, exactly. But then why didn't they come? I don't know. See, this is why that battle at Endgame is like, it's like everybody, but
not everybody.
But they were there, but we didn't see them because
they were hiding behind some rocks. Just they were, And
I also have another. Well, no, it's actually this is the answer. Actually, I just answered my own question. I'm like, oh, but did Thanos' snap affect the multiverse? And the answer is no, it didn't. It just affected the prime timeline, right? It wouldn't have affected across
right
all the other dimensions. It only affected our dimension.
And doesn't Thanos allude to something like that? That out of I don't know how many dimensions that have destroyed themselves because of overpopulation or whatever, he was going to make sure that this dimension is the one that gets corrected. Doesn't he say something similar to that?
I don't know. I don't remember, but it sounds like something he would say. Sounds very Thanos.
Because if he is an Eternal, does that make them hex beings as well? Can they, traverse?
Well, he seems to be this. Well, no, they go back. When they go back, they're not on the same. So we just trying to figure it out because they're both. There's a paradox happening because when they go back to get the stone from the planet in Guardians of the Galaxy, that's when they start having the paradox of the two
timelines,
nebulas, and then that's where then Thanos finds out about the plan. But is that a different time? Is that a multiverse, or is that just gone back in time?
That's a good question.
Now I'm going down a rabbit hole because I can't remember. Maybe similar to how Agatha said Wanda is a Nexus being in all the same in all dimensions. Which Thanos, so if that's true, Thanos is the same because Thanos wasn't any different when they went back. But I'm just wondering if it was more of a time thing than it was a dimensional thing. Well, actually, so no, I think it is a time thing because they're going back in time before certain things happen. So I don't think they ever talk about going the multiverses. They're going back in the timeline of
right. They're talking about the quantum timeline.
Right. So it's not a dimensional thing. But
what if it actually is, but they don't know it is?
Well, that's the other thing too, because Christian said before, which is, well, we have the other version of Gamora. So it's Gamora from the past brought into the future, and she hasn't had all those experiences that she had with Star-Lord, like, because it never, her reality, it never happened.
Right.
But is that a timeline, or is that a different universe? That's where I'm getting hung up.
Yeah.
And and Christian's the only one listening right now, so he's
yes, we keep throwing to him because
is it a multiverse or is it a time?
And maybe that's what they're going to flesh out with this Loki series.
Yes, maybe. And yes, you're actually right about that. You're actually right about that.
Because he's the perfect example. He was technically killed by Thanos.
Yes, that is correct.
But then when they went back in time to get the Tesseract from Loki,
right?
You know, when he was jailed, Loki gets away.
Yeah.
I'm just happy that Sam Raimi and the writers of Rick and Morty are the ones who are going to explain it all in Strange 2. Is it the writers from Rick and Morty, the ones that are involved in? Oh
my God, that would be amazing.
Oh, holy shit!
Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland. That would be amazing if that's going to really happen. So, I mean, geez, talk about people who know how to deal with the multiverse and dimensions. And just for everybody listening too, a Christian who is, he follows us and listens and he contributes as much as he can. He's been the comments that we're reading here as we're coming in. Just for anybody that's not watching the video version of this and you're just listening to this, we're going back and forth with Christian, and he's been chiming in as we're going here, just to put it into context for everybody.
That
would be truly amazing if that's really the case. He goes, yeah, and Christian saying, yeah, and Ant-Man 3 is written by another Rick and Morty head writer. Oh boy, they're just tapping into all the Rick and Morty talent now.
But I mean, that makes sense. I mean,
makes complete sense.
Here's the thing, where Feige knew what he was doing, and where Kathleen Kennedy did not know what she was doing, is that you get people that know the subject matter, like the subject matter, and more or less like what they said with Taika Waititi with Ragnarok. They gave him like 20 points. They said, here are the things that we want you to somehow incorporate it. And then when they showed him the first cut, they're like, or he showed them the first cut, he had incorporated like all 20 points. And they were like, no, we only thought you were going to do like 2 or 3 of these.
He's like, I'm going to do them all.
Yeah, I just did them all.
Here's one of the differences I just want to point out about what you said. And it's not, what you're saying is correct. But here's the mistake that has been done with Star Wars, which they're trying to course correct. They got the property, they bought from Lucas, whatever they did with his thing, they threw it away, whatever. They moved too fast to get this stuff produced without doing the work of because the big difference here between Star Wars and Marvel, and I know I'm going to say you can make the case, oh yeah, but we had these books, we had all this stuff. I understand that. I get it. And believe me, I'm another one who's like, yeah, why not pull from this stuff? But the continuity was all over the place. And the further we got away, like they were cool stories, but continuity was not from one thing to the next. And quite frankly, I thought some of the stuff was just dumb. It just did not like it. So get upset about all this other Star Wars stuff. Some of those books are like not good. So, but the point I'm just trying to make here is that Marvel has got years and years and years of books and all this stuff and writers and everything. Yes, you got to bring it all together so you can tell this MCU, this Marvel Cinematic Universe. Star Wars wasn't yes, there's points, and yes, there's a kind of a through line, but it's not nearly as fleshed out. And I feel like they moved way too fast to get product on the screen to make money. And now enough time has settled in, and you got, and they should have trusted a guy like Filoni at first, and I don't think they did. Obviously, Jon Favreau's now involved, so you've got him, and then you've got Pablo Hidalgo, who heads up a lot of the literature now and has really done a great job bringing that together. And now we're starting to see
what should have happened initially.
And now they're backpedaling, and hey, it is what it is at this point. And so they're going to course correct by filling it in. I think, and that to me is the biggest mistake and problem they did. They didn't do the work. They thought they did the work, but they didn't. And then all this bullshit of reshooting and switching directors, it just shows you just they didn't have it figured out.
No, you're absolutely right, because we've talked about it a million times. Force Awakens blew up.
Awesome.
Instantly, like you said, they were putting out. Then Rogue One came out, that blew up. But there was a year and what that transpired between the two movies. There was a year and 6 months or something.
Yeah, something like that, because they were supposed to be like one a year.
Right. And then all of a sudden they released Last Jedi in December. And then they started with this nonsense of, Lucas released all the original movies in May, so we're going to switch everything back to May. And it's like, wait, that's 5 months from now. Force Awakens took like 4 months to get out of the theater.
Yeah, and then we're going to jam this like solo movie. And it's just all so much and like not really like slow down.
And again, they thought they were looking for their Russo brothers. And the difference was the Russo brothers understood, okay, Captain America, we'll have some snarky comments, but we're going to be faithful to the original thing. Not, hey, we're going to bring in, Miller and Lloyd, who have done all this great comedy stuff. And in their mind, they're just going to make a comedy Han Solo movie, not stick to, what Disney wanted. So...
yeah, I don't know. The whole thing was just not well thought out. And I know, and fine. I mean, somebody from Disney could say, no, we had it all planned out. It's like, you didn't, because we saw it was on screen. Now I would say you're figuring it out. It's getting figured out. And now look look at the products that we're getting.
As we said before we started up, they traded Kovalov and Zuboff for Nedved. Once they got Peter Nedved, they realized, crap, he really wasn't the guy we were looking for. So that's kind of where I'm going at. Okay. Let's go over some of these others real quick, because I don't want to spend all night here.
Yeah. We're already an hour and 24 minutes in to our normal 1 hour show.
Yes. Hawkeye. Christian has already talked about a cameo in that. I think, can someone die in this? Yeah, Hawkeye. I could honestly see them killing off Jeremy Renner's character.
I could definitely see that happening.
Any inkling of a big bad for this?
This one's tough.
Because we see with a lot of these other series, we know who's starring in them.
Yeah.
But we don't know exactly where they're going to go with them.
And they're holding off on that stuff, because if there's one thing Marvel has kind of had some trouble with over the years is their villains. I think they have a little bit of a villain issue sometimes. It's because it's not as like, when you think about the DC villains, it's a little more like, Marvel villains are kind of like, they're good, but I just always feel like there's always kind of a villain thing.
You know what the problem is? Marvel villains are a lot like the NWO. They end up being cool villains that people end up liking, like Loki.
Well, yes, they have. Yeah, you feel there's a sympathetic, and they have turns. Yeah,
even there's a lot of people out there that like Thanos. Flip side, DC villains tend to suck with the rest of the movie, but that's another point. I kid. Next up, Ms. Marvel. Obviously, this is laying groundworks.
Yeah. For the Marvels, which I love that.
which already has the symbol of Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel, and Spectrum/Photon,
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah, whatever they'll name her.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll have the 3 of them. Definitely.
And I'm assuming we're gonna have Skrulls, we're gonna have Kree, we're gonna have
we're gonna have a lot there.
We're gonna. It should be cool.
It will be cool.
So those 2 series are coming out in late this year.
Mm-hmm.
They're cramming those in there. Okay. Let's see. After that, Spider-Man 3. I think, will we have a good grasp on where they're going with the multiverse by the time we get to Spider-Man 3?
I think we will, but I think we're going to still be in for some surprises because I think they're going to have a lot of stuff up their sleeve for that film, which is then obviously our lead into Doctor Strange.
Yeah. We've had contradicting reports. Obviously, Albert Molina has said
so much disinformation out there about this.
Yes.
It's amazing.
He's back as Doc Ock.
Yeah.
Jamie Foxx is back as Electro.
Yeah. And
William Dafoe is back as Green Goblin.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like.
But yet, insane. Andrew Garfield has said this week they've yet to call him. But at the same time, if you're Andrew Garfield, are you the one to let that cat out of the bag?
Absolutely not, because they're going to sue his ass off.
Right. And
it's impossible to keep track of all this. Yes.
And to add to all of this, we talked about, your scoop of Spider-Man showing up in Falcon and Winter Soldier. The going theory is that he was in hiding because of the whole J. Jonah Jameson thing.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. And from what they said was they wanted to use him, and Feige didn't let them use him because he said he didn't want Spider-Man stealing the series.
Right. I don't know who this is, but yes, as you guys said, I got another notification from YouTube saying Andrew and Toby are 100% in Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, but like we've talked about the entire time, we've seen how many. This obviously this Mephisto will be in this. It's going to be Mephisto, and we're going to see Grim Reaper, and oh my God, there's an X on a street sign. Wolverine will be in the next episode. He used to go to Mandalore. I almost said
Madripoor.
He used to go to a go-go bar in Madripoor all the time. He met up with Cap there once. Obviously, Steve Rogers, the X-Men. There were all these crazy theories out there. Oh my God, it's First Class, it's Colossus, it's Deadpool, it's
Mephisto.
Mephisto is working the bar. He's next to Dave Chappelle as Rick James in the bar.
It's everything.
It's everything. It is oh my God, like the thing, like the meme that Christian
Sue Storm is in there, but she's invisible.
Yeah. Well, there were some Thunderbolts in the background.
That's true.
But that could have been Thunderbolt Ross as well.
Right.
So, okay. Do we foresee? Well, if they're going to have all of these villains, supposedly, and all of these Peter Parkers, could we plausibly see one of them dying?
Maybe. I mean, if you want to put a nail in it, and they're going to do all that, then yeah. So there's no way they all come back other than Peter Parker Prime or whatever Peter Parker from this multiverse. I don't know.
Right. Well, here's the other thing that I've seen a rumor. Sam Raimi is working on Spider-Man 4 with Tobey Maguire. So the rumor is that this is a way of bringing Tobey Maguire back and allowing Sam Raimi to finish up that series with Tobey Maguire.
It's giving him a nod. It's giving him some respect if that's the case. I mean, and that's fine. I mean, if they want to do something and it's a cool story that fits in and makes sense, I think it could be cool to do.
So, with the same,
I mean, we're supposed to be getting Michael Keaton's version of Batman in the Flash movie. So I think that's awesome because he's my favorite version of the Bat.
But he didn't fight off the shark with the spray.
No, he didn't.
Now, so here's another question for you. Would you be open to Andrew Garfield continuing as Spider-Man in the Venom movies?
No.
Okay. Quickly. That was just like...
Yes, Batman Beyond with Keaton. I totally agree. Batman Beyond with the Keaton. Yep. God, I would love that. Love it.
Okay. After Spider-Man, obviously we're getting Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, Big Bad. Is it Wanda? Is it
I think it's Wanda.
Modor? Is it
I think they're all in it. I think it's all I think we see Modo. I think he's in it. I think Dormammu is probably going to be in it, but I think Wanda is going to be ultimately the big bad. I think we're going to get an early on these, and then that gets conquered, and then Wanda is the one that they all really have to
follow.
Fight.
Yeah, okay.
or get her to turn. And do we get a House of M type thing? I don't know. I don't know.
Here's another thing. If this all starts up and Spider-Man ends with like a cliffhanger, I think Doctor Strange could potentially be Captain America: Civil War for this phase.
I think that's a good assessment
because it's an Avengers movie without being an Avengers movie.
Right.
I could see that definitely taking place here.
Well, I just think that when you have something, the multiverse of madness, I mean, and I know Christian earlier said, Ant-Man, Quantumania. So you've got this Quantumania stuff going on and multiverse stuff. And,
but it could be, I mean, similar to like how we built to Infinity War and Endgame. From Civil War, from the first Avengers movie, from the second Avengers movie. Right. I mean, I could plausibly see, this started.
I'd say Mordo. So Christian saying I'd say Mordo at first, and then possibly they team up with America Chavez to fight Wanda.
Could be because she's in the movie as well.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Similar to what you're saying, House of M storyline. Does the House of M storyline continue throughout several movies?
Could
involve pulling other characters in and being like a sidebar to these movies, and actually Quantumania is like the bookend.
Could be. Ooh. I mean, it becomes like crossover, like comics. Like each. It's kind of this one event going through all the issues.
Yep. That's
type of thing.
That's what I'm getting at because theoretically, from the first Avengers movie to the last one, well, that was I think that was 10 years, but I think they're trying to cram everything in here in a theoretically it's a 1-year gap because Doctor Strange comes out in March of 2022 and Ant-Man comes out in February of 2023. Yeah.
Christian saying, I'd love to see Wanda, Strange, Agatha, Mordo, Wong, and Spidey against Mephisto.
There you go. Finally, Mephisto.
Mephisto finally comes in.
Which, again, the Mexican Tony Stark says they talked about a rumored the Nicolas Cage movie, Ghost Rider. And he says, yes, finally a movie where Mephisto would actually make sense. All right, real quickly here.
All right.
Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
Do we see them killing off Thor?
Yes. Only to be brought back in the multiverse.
Who will be brought back in the multiverse? No one is ultimately dead. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Michael B. Jordan has said he will come back provided the story makes sense.
I agree with that 100%. It has to make sense, which goes back to what you and I were talking about, and if they make him Black Panther, if he becomes Black Panther, or he starts off as Black Panther and it's Shuri, like somehow it has to make sense though. It just can't seem like a cop out. That's it. It's got, the first movie is so good. It tells such a good story. The characters are so good. Obviously, there's a problem here, and so from a story perspective, it just has to make sense. That's it. You don't want to just bring someone back and go, oh, here, you're Black Panther now, and the explanation sucks. Like, no one will respect the filmmakers for that. Like, make it make sense.
I have a way of making it make sense.
Okay.
Remember that when T'Challa goes to that like spirit world,
right? When
T'Chaka is and all the previous Black Panthers,
right? When he takes when he drinks from the flower or eats the flower, whatever it is.
He has to do that, and then they bury him in that sand.
Yeah.
Let's say if they make it so that T'Challa actually buried Killmonger there and didn't actually bury him in a regular grave.
Okay.
Thinking that by being in that astral plane,
he'll be reanimated or like
he'll be set straight, and then he can come back as what he was supposed to be.
I could see if they do that well. I mean, that would be kind of cool because it'd be a really nice way to like show that he never even gave up on him, even in death and having to defend himself. He still never gave up on trying to get him to come back.
Or we get Siri as Black Panther, and as a result of this happening, he helps her out.
That could be. Yeah, I mean, as long I agree with him, it just has to make sense.
Okay. Now, the big theory, once again, because in Falcon and Winter Soldier, Doom was from the country over from Sokovia.
Latavia.
Okay.
Latavia.
Now, apparently, Wakanda Forever, it's all silver, and it looks like it's all vibranium. And since Doom has a completely vibranium uniform or costume or whatever you want to call it, armor, obviously, Dr. Doom is the big bad in this movie.
Right, but the thing is with Dr. Doom, you still have to go through the back storyline of the cosmic rays and all this stuff to be able to get to being the part of Dr. Doom. Like, he has to do the transformation because they go through what they go through.
Okay, right.
So that has to still happen unless you're changing that origin story, which why would you? Because it's perfect origin story.
Unless they're not going to have they're not going to retell the origin story and just boom, just
Dr. Doom already?
Yeah.
I don't know how that would sit with me.
I mean, it all depends. It's all going to come down to what they do what they ultimately do with Fantastic Four and what they do with X-Men. Because if they're gonna take a Spider-Man approach and just kind of wrap it up in 10 minutes and explain what happens, is there a way you could do that with Doom so that it plausibly makes sense?
The only thing I think that you could do, which still is tough, man, because it's like, then, you just go back to well, where were they doing this and where were they doing that, knowing how big of superheroes they were.
Right.
And, with Spider-Man, we already knew Peter Parker existed in the universe. It was just he wasn't killed off. He wasn't it seemed so easy to just bring him in. And he's such a recognized, everybody knows Spider-Man is. Don't need to tell the origin story again. Here he is, and they weaved it in great, and it was awesome.
Right.
I think Fantastic Four, even though they're one of the older of the Marvel, series,
oldest team.
Right. It's hard for me to just have them have them in, and it's where have they been the whole time? This is what the problem we're all having with Eternals right now. We're excited to see it, and I'm sure there's an explanation for it because I'm sure they've thought of it. But where the hell have they been? Where were they during the events of Endgame? Why weren't they there to help?
Apart from that, I think the Spider-Man origin story was more or less told well enough through Raimi and through the Andrew Garfield movies to where you could assimilate what had happened.
Well,
And
I mean,
like
at this point, if you don't know how Spider-Man became Spider-Man, then like I don't know what to tell you. Like,
right.
You know, like these films are not for you then. Like, and
right.
You know what? And if by the way, if you take your kid to see Spider-Man and they don't know who Spider-Man is, you go, hey, well, let's watch these movies, or here's a comic book, or here's the cartoons.
Yeah. It's been told enough times.
He got bit by a radioactive spider, he has powers. Done. Now Uncle Ben gets killed, he never comes back. Let's go.
There are two certainties.
Uncle Ben never comes back.
And the spider bites.
And the spider bites.
So given that, I think Marvel probably wants to tell.
I think they want to have like how Black Panther was a great standalone film. Even though it slots in, you could watch Black Panther and not watch any other Marvel movie.
Right.
I think Black Panther 1000% stands on its own. The characters they bring in there, like, oh, you can say, oh, this is from this, but yet it's not necessary. You could just see Black Panther and not watch any other superhero Marvel film. I think they would want that for Fantastic Four.
Right.
That they
and I think given what they showed in this trailer, we've got a few. We've got like 3 more movies to talk about. I'll tell you.
All right, let's go.
This will fit in. Yeah, we already talked about the Marvels, so we can skip that. Ant-Man and Wasp, Quantumania, we kind of touched on that as well. Could they kill someone here? Yeah. Kirk Douglas easily, or Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally think that they could be absolutely killed off.
Could they bring back? Do you think they'll bring back Ghost and Lawrence Fishburne and Walton Goggins and
I would love for them to bring Ghost back because I think she's great and it's a cool character.
I think it's funny because I've read like a lot of like kind of crappy reviews on those 2 movies recently, and I think they're just like absolutely fun movies. Both. I think
it's great. I love that, and I thought once again Marvel does it like. She's a villain, but she's not. Like, she just had a lot of crappy stuff happen to her. Like, she's just trying to survive. Like, she's in pain, Right. And she's not really a villain. She's doing bad stuff, but it's just because she's
scared.
Living in pain. I mean, she's scared and she's in pain. So it's like, but I think she's got great character. I would love to see Ghost come back.
Okay. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 comes out May 5th, 2023. So 2 years from now. We will all hopefully, knock on wood, we will all hopefully be seeing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Interesting thing that was brought up. The first movie had a brown logo, and Groot dies in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Second movie had a blue logo, and Yondu dies in that movie.
Right.
The third movie has like a combination of a like brownish white type thing going on. So I've seen the speculation that that either Rocket or Dax are the ones that if they continue this going forward, it would be one or the other that would be the one stepping away. What I think a lot of people. Go ahead.
I was going to say my prediction would be Dax just because of Bautista being very like, I don't know, he seems to be a little like jaded about everything lately. And I know he definitely stood up for well, they all stood up for James Gunn. Yeah. But he seems to be a little like, I don't know, he doesn't seem to be, and I just feel like that. I feel like there's something going on, and I feel like they're just writing him off, and he seems happy with it.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, let's be honest. You could do Guardians so long as you have Chris Pratt.
Mm-hmm. Zoe Saldana.
Yeah, Zoe Saldana. Nebula, I guess, as well.
Bradley Cooper, which is Rocket. And
which
Groot.
Is Rocket. Groot. You can honestly, the rest of the cast can be revolving. In the comics, it was always a revolving cast. Anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah, you had other Guardians coming in and out.
Yeah, we've already seen all the teams of Ravagers that have been around. So
Christian saying Gunn has said 3 will really focus on Rocket Story, and Mark Hamill is heavily rumored.
Well, then maybe it could be a case of Rocket. They focus on him,
Maybe.
and who knows. But so here's the thing: we were talking about how do you fit Fantastic Four and Doom into the MCU? How about through the Guardians movie?
That at least you're in space and it's got cosmic, and there's a potentials there for that. And I guess you could maybe say the same thing about the Marvels as well. I mean, I think anything that takes place in space has a heavy potential for the introduction of that storyline.
Right.
Because especially if it's something where they did it and it's off world and he's not on Earth and he's somewhere else or something,
Right. Well, and here's the other thing too. This all ends. It says Phase 4, but that 4 is the Fantastic.
Yeah, the Fantastic Four.
So it's like, who are you kidding?
I mean, we all know. I mean, that's fine. That's fine with me if that's how it, because that would be great. It's a great introduction then to the next phase, and then we got Fantastic Four. The X-Men are here, and now we really are blending all the universes, and everybody's finally happy. We're getting what we want.
Yeah, there's really nothing that's announced X-Men related though outside of Deadpool. If you really think about it,
no, there isn't.
But
why they're not going to do anything yet? Not with that. They're going to wait because they know how explosive that's going to be.
Right, and maybe it's going to be something similar where we may not see. They're talking about. All right, so Guardians is May 2023. Let's imagine that Fantastic Four is going to be a summer movie.
Yeah.
So you have
either summer or Christmas.
Summer or Christmas, and then in between they've been they've been announcing a fall movie as well and a midsummer movie.
Right.
So we have Blade, we have X-Men, we have there's still a lot of stuff that they haven't given exact dates to.
Right. And of course all the series with Secret Wars and Armor Wars, I mean all this stuff. So there's tons and tons of stuff. And this is just what they've announced. So, I mean, there's more, there's more coming. So it's all happening.
As we've said, who's to say that they don't release some movies just on the network, similar to what they're talking about doing with Obi-Wan. So,
yeah, exactly. I mean, we may have these very limited series, 4-episode things.
Right.
2 episodes, and it's 2 films, like we could, if it absolutely happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, we've kind of made up for lost time here.
Yeah, we've made up for a lot of lost time here.
Yes.
This was a super jam-packed episode of Galaxy Geeks. Of course, we always try to keep it to an hour, but today we felt like there was a lot to talk about. We want to talk about Bad Batch. All this Marvel stuff's going on. I know there's tons of other things that have been going on we didn't even get a chance to really touch on, but that's okay. That's why we come on every single week and talk to you guys. So obviously the main topics of discussion in the coming weeks will be about Bad Batch, eventually Loki, when that comes online. But obviously we're going to be integrating all these other bits as it happens as well. If there's something you really want us to talk about that you feel like we're not talking about, hit us up. Go to the website, galaxygeeks.net. Hit us up on social. Send us a DM. We're everywhere. Instagram, Facebook. Go into the Facebook group with everybody else. Tons of stuff going on in the Galaxy Geeks Facebook group. Everybody's always posting things. We talk about all these series. We don't even talk about the fraction of the things on the show that we talk about in that group. That group covers everything. I mean, we're talking about shows on all the different networks, different films. I mean, we're talking about Mortal Kombat. We're talking about the Nevers right now. We're talking about the Smoke and Bone, or I think that's what it is.
Smoke and Bone, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's discussions going on all the different shows and properties. So if you want to have those discussions, head over to Galaxy Geeks Facebook group. There's a fan page, regular page, but it's the group is what you want access to. It's free. You can join the conversation. We're having a good time over there. And as we normally do, we broadcast live into that group every Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern. You can also catch us on YouTube as well, live. And subscribe to the audio version of this, which is the audio podcast, which is anywhere you get podcasts. But of course, you can always go over to galaxygeeks.net, where everything is there curated in one easy spot for you. And don't be afraid to hit the merch store and find some cool Galaxy Geek swag there. It would be very helpful if you could buy a shirt or a bag or a sticker or whatever. Once again, Victor and I, we've been doing this for years. We just enjoy doing this because we love talking about these things, and but there's some money involved with paying for the site, the server, and even StreamYard and all that. So there is some out of pocket cost. So anytime you buy a shirt or something like that, it really does go a long way. Eventually, I'm sure we'll do a Patreon or something. I don't know, but for now, just buy a shirt.
Right. Cool.
So, all right. Anything else, sir?
Just Mr. Solo has something to say to us to wrap things up here.
Punch it.
And on that note, see you next time right here on the Galaxy of Geeks.
Boom.